Aya, afoyo bino i presentation eni an kiluongo ni David Monk.
For matek an kilone Rachkara Deogracious.
Yeah, Ojok Moses Walter.
And together we represent the youth lifelong learning UNESCO group in Gulu, which is located in northern Uganda. Today we're here to talk about some of the work that we do in the community around climate change and environmental education. So we're a team of people that started in 2017. We came together as part of an action research summer school at Gulu, hosted by Gulu University, and as part of the launch of the UNESCO Chair in Lifelong Learning, Youth and Work. And at this summer school, we went out into the community and we worked together with youth to discover some of the key issues that are affecting youth in the region. And being youth ourselves, we decided to, following the summer school, continue with the action research to engage with the community around key issues, including environmental challenges that are cross-cutting, really. And we have partners through the UNESCO network and through the participants in the summer school with people in Uganda and around the world, really. And these are some of our core members. This is at a planning meeting. Both pictures are at planning meetings at different times.
Thank you so much, David. I'm called Walter. Previously, I was a hotel manager, and currently I'm a backyard farmer and part of the team.
And an extraordinary entrepreneur as well, a very successful backyard farmer.
Thank you for that. The Community Learning Cafe is actually one of our center stage areas of one of the weapons that we use to put across our messages. So this is basically, the community learning cafes are basically discussions, but discussions that take place in environments that reinforce whatsoever theme that we're discussing. These discussions involve various stakeholders, learning institutions like Gulu University, secondary schools and primary schools, civil society players, local leaders, private sector players, and the community. Our hope in having these discussions, basically one, is to start the conversation about sustainable development, start conversations about environmentally conscious living and activities. The other hope that we have in doing this is to start to create connections, and that's why we have all these various players coming on board to discuss the various issues, whether it is on social justice or environment. The other thing that we hope to achieve, especially in bringing the local government on board, is to influence policies, decisions, and budget allocations from the local level. As a group of volunteers, we may not have the financial capacity and the powers, executive powers, to undertake certain things, but we know that involving the local government ensures that these discussions translate into tangible undertakings in our society. Given that Gulu was recently brought to a city status, these discussions therefore can ensure that Gulu is not just in a city but is a green city, that issues in relation to environment and sustainable undertakings are really put at the forefront, and the very reason also we have private sector players and the community. Like I said, we are volunteers, and therefore we hope that the civil society can be able to reinforce our messages out there and carry on this discussion further more than this. As you can see in these photos here, this is an example of one of the community learning cafes that we had on sustainable agriculture. This is one of the model dairy farms in Gulu, and as you can see, one side those are working groups in one of the discussions, and this other side is also to ensure experiential learning, as you can see, and that's why we have students coming on board, such that this message can be able to practicalize what has been put across in classes. Otherwise, thank you so much.
Thank you so much once again. As said earlier, my name is Deogracious, Rachkara. As the other examples of the community cafes is the initiative of planting trees on the street of Gulu town or Gulu city now. The initiative was called Gulu Breathe Clean, where we engage different stakeholders, the district leadership, the schools, different school administrators, where we went and shared with them our ideas of planting trees onto the street, of which they gave us opportunity to interact with their students and their pupils as well in different schools, both vocational schools and higher institution, and then the lower one. In our case is the primary, where the student also accepted, and then the administrator accepted, and we organized a 2-day tree planting event where we planted trees, and we engaged with the community. Community also came to plant trees. So with the students, the student bodies, the stakeholders, and then the community members who came and planted, and then the ownership of the tree, who is going to look after the tree when we are not there. So if we planted in front of your business shop, we advise that you take care of the trees after we have planted, or we make you plant, you name the trees with your name, and then you take full responsibility. For those ones that are not in front of maybe the business shops or business or premises, we task ourselves with the help of the students to come and then look after it, weed them, and then maintain them. And with this, during these 2 days, we managed to have a very good documentary in a video form, which you're going to see in the next slide, where we all our activities of planting the trees was taken care, was covered, and then we want, hopefully soon, this video is going to come out and it's going to be translated into the local language, so that we share it with the schools and then the community, so that they understand and what our aims are in as far as the environment protection is concerned. Unfortunately, a number of our activities we were not able to do all because of the occurrence of the COVID-19, where people could not, even some of our trees died, because from around 1,500 around, now we have about 1,000, maybe 200 that are surviving. The rest died because people were in total lockdown, and it became so hard for us to come and maintain the trees with weedings and other things. But this is basically what we have been doing with the Gulu community cafes, and this is entirely from our perspective, and we hope we shall change Gulu to a model city in Uganda. Thank you.
So now on this slide, we're going to play a short video for you. Hopefully this works.
What's your name?
My name is Nyego Atomic James. I'm a student from Gulu University doing Bachelor of Art Education. Yeah, I'm going to be a teacher in the making.
My name is Jennifer Anena.
Jennifer Anena, why did you decide to plant trees along the road today?
I've decided to come because I want my city to look more green.
As a teacher, I'm now taking the lead so that people get to know the advantage or the purpose of the trees that we plant.
And secondly, I've seen like so many trees have been cut down along these roads. So it's my pleasure to be part of what these Gulu Breathe Clean are doing. And I really want these streets to look more green in 20 years to come.
If the oxygen is in abundance, it means that life standard will also be increased. That's why I decided to come and plant tree as a teacher so that we make a beauty of the country or a beauty of the city like this.
How many trees have you planted today?
Today I've planted 5. Last week on Friday, I've planted 10.
Have you decided to give a tree a name?
We are looking forward to give the name.
I decided to name one with my name, Jennifer. I'll be able to show it to my children and even my grandchildren in future to come.
Okay, so at this juncture in our recording, we're sitting on a roof and it's getting quite dark and mosquitoes are starting to come out, and we had some technical issues. We're not sure exactly how this is going to turn out in terms of the video. However, we hope it will turn out well. We're going to attempt to do some video editing of our own. We have very limited skills, so we hope that it's not too horrible and that we can edit out this part maybe. In any case, we hope that you have just watched a video of our community learning cafes in the Gulu Breathe Clean. From my perspective, I think there's an added element of learning that comes through. I'm a lecturer at Gulu University in the Faculty of Education, and my area of study is really around political ecology. And so I have vested interest, although the courses that I'm teaching now are not related directly. I have a vested interest in teaching and a strong feeling towards teaching experientially for my students. So in this case, the fellow that you saw in the video, and there was a few others, are actually some of my students that came out and volunteered, and I can't imagine a better learning experience for a teacher than coming and seeing the possibilities of active learning. There needs to be some more connections that are made in terms of thinking how it can connect to curriculum perhaps. But here what we would like to do is connect a little bit to the theory, some theory around environmental and critical environmental learning. There's a broad base of literature around this. Most of it talks about experiential learning. One area that one person that we'd like to refer to here is Darlene Clover, who has written many things in this area, especially in forms of adult education. And she talks a lot about the need for critical thinking and needing environmental education to go deeper through to examine structural injustices around environmental environmental degradation and climate change and the impacts. Thinking about who is feeling it and where and how these are compounded and intersectional and unjust ultimately, but also realizing that there's a need for action and political activity in relation to solving the problems of climate change. And that's where the experiential piece and active learning becomes so very important. And then also, briefly we'd like to connect here to also the pedagogy of hope and care. So Paulo Freire is well known for his ideas of liberation, pedagogies of liberation and empowerment, but he also talks a lot about hope, and hope being an ontological need, similarly to Joanna Macy, who talks about the need for caring. And both of them say that this comes through the need for active learning, active participation, the understanding that you can make a better world. And that because people can get caught up in the difficulties of if you don't have hope, and if you don't have care, then you can become frozen in inaction. So that hope is a very important piece, and the realization, in order for hope to happen, the realization that you can make a change in the world is very important. And now the third piece that we want to connect both of these experiential learning and the component of hope that we see coming through in these lifelong learning cafes is the complexity, the integration of learning across subjects. So we see that students, in this case the learning, we can say, is very much life-wide learning, and there's a good deal of literature around life-wide learning and environmental education. But here we want to refer to Sanford, Hopper, and Starr, who talk about it very specifically in terms of learning for students and how to integrate formal education processes into through experiential learning into more holistic learning experiences rather than being compartmentalized in classrooms and subjects. So here we see a lot of this happening. We have the students that are learning. So they're learning to engage with community members. They're asking the community members to take care of the trees that are in front of their shops, as Deo alluded to. They're also coming and meeting the business members that donated the trees. Kijani Trees was one of the partners, so they were involved in that, and also working with SEED Uganda, which is it stands for Community Empowerment Entrepreneurship Development, and it's a very important civil society organization here that also is very political and environmentally oriented. And so they were coming and engaging with them. The students were engaging with members of the civil society organization that supplied lunch, for example. So they were negotiating all of this and understanding how to engage people and how to bring together different people, as well as their local councillor, the LC3, who is a political figure, to get the permission to plant the trees on the streets, and then with the NFA, the National Forest Authority, to understand what types of trees we need to plant, because you can't just plant any trees. It depends on the roots and the speed that they'll grow and what they're going to drop. We don't want fruit trees because they'll make a mess on the ground. So there are all these components, and then we see this as a kicking off point. Coming back to Darlene Clover's element of political, how do we get deeper? How do we start to think about other issues, not just planting a tree and naming it or asking someone to take care of it, or understanding the how to plant trees and the type of soil and the types of trees. These are all important components of learning for the students, of course, but now getting deeper, the next step is really the kickoff for us in terms of how these learning cafes, what we do with these learning cafes. We bring together in informal spaces, but they're very they're thought about and created in a very purposeful way by our team in our planning meetings. So the next step of what we want to do is we're thinking about broader community engagement. We're going to if it wasn't for COVID, but now we're thinking of ways of how we can do this anyway, engage with the broader community. So now we've created a video that we're going to go back and show, and the kids, the children and adults as well, can see themselves in this video, and that will spark off an evening. It'll have to be an evening because for showing the video, logistically, we'll show it at the local school and have a conversation, a broader community learning cafe around the environmental issues in the very localized area, other than tree planting, and brainstorming about what can we do to address them and what are the deeper issues. One of the things that we're missing, or in this case that we haven't got at, that we ask a little bit more about in the next slide, is how to integrate this more formally into the school curriculum. So this was really more like a learning, a field day, or a couple of field days, I guess. It was done over a couple of different days, and we went and visited them in their classrooms as well, but prior to those days. But how do we integrate this as a formal part of the curriculum, and not just a fun day that the students don't have to spend sitting inside of the classroom, which is what they normally do. So I guess I started with the second question here. How can education formally build in spaces of community engaged learning? How can we get deeper and build curriculum around such experiences? And then the other piece is, and I think it's interrelated, how can participating in activities like tree planting foster a deeper level of critical thinking and political action to meet the urgency of the climate crisis, particularly in respect to the intersectional and compounded environmental injustices that exist here. Thank you. You need to watch your Watumo. Yeah. Ah, yeah, Afoyo Matek.